Hello there, and welcome to part 2 of making Cruella de Vil's wig from scratch. Today I'm going to show you how I'll be making wefts for this wig. In my last video, I went over how to blend hair for making these wefts. So if you want to get caught up, go ahead and click the screen now to go watch that one before continuing on with this one. For this video, I decided to kind of split it into two major parts. First, we're going to learn how to tape the hair, then we're going to learn how to sew them into wefts. Part 1 of this video will be using hair, tape, scissors, and a boar hair brush. Part 2 will use paper, a sewing machine, and coffee. Wonderful, wonderful coffee. Oh, wait, no, there's more. We'll also be using a straightening iron and cardstock. Okay, now let's get started. Since we're making these wefts by hand and need to feed it through a sewing machine, we need to tape our hair so it doesn't get all tangled in our machines. We're going to start by unbraiding the hair, and then I'll show you how to lay out the tape and spread the hair onto that tape to get it ready for our sewing machine. So like I said, first we're going to lay out the tape. I'm going to do about a foot long weft to start, and then I will do the rest of the hair sped up. So first I fold in the ends and stick it to the table. You want the sticky side up, but the ends folded back so that it sticks to our table. This is a pressure activated adhesive tape, so that means that I have to press down on the tape itself for it to really stick and adhere to whatever I'm trying to get it to stick to. And you'll see me pressing repeatedly on the hair and the tape itself to get a good adhesion. Right now I'm trying to line up strips of tape. I'm laying two side by side. As you can see, they are parallel, and the width between them is just enough for our stitching to be centered in a single row across the hair. As I indicated with my hands, I'm only going to be doing it in the middle section across the two pieces of tape. I'm going to leave an inch on either end or so that I can cut away the tape from the table without cutting any hair. I'm going to do a half method where I am folding the hair in half and laying that middle part across the tape so that I'm stitching across the center of the length of hair and then folding in half later, which will be part 2 of this video. I'm spreading the hair evenly. Since I'm folding this weft in half later on, I don't have to get my layer of hair evenly distributed across this tape, but I'm going to do my best anyway because I'm a perfectionist and I want it to look good. So I'll spread the hair out, and this is where the comb comes in so that I can make that even layer. And then you'll see that I'm combing it straight so that it goes perpendicular to the tape and the row that I will be stitching with the machine. There we go. So I'm pressing it into the tape, and now I'm going to tape over the hair so that I have a solid piece to feed through my machine. It's important that your top layer of tape is lined up really nicely with your bottom layers of tape, simply because as you feed it through the sewing machine, it can start to warp and then you'll lose hair and it can get messy or caught up in your sewing machine needle and thread. Since I'm not using hairspray as some other videos do, it's also extra important that you're putting this tape kind of close together and making sure that it's tight as possible. And you can see me doing that pressure activation that I mentioned earlier and making sure that it really all sticks together nicely. And now I'm cutting it away from the table. And there we go. That's ready to go into a sewing machine. So now I'm going to do the rest of the hair, and I do each step one at a time across the entire unit of hair. You see I do it for the white as well. This allows me to kind of productionalize this process, and it goes by much more quickly this way, as opposed to doing each weft from start to finish by itself. That's pretty much it for taping the hair. Let's move on. In part 2 of this video, I'm going to be showing you how we actually sew this weft now. I'm tearing up my tissue paper so that I can line it up with my row where I'm going to make my stitches. This helps the hair feed through the machine. As I mentioned before, I'm not using hairspray as it affects the adhesion of the tape, and I noticed it was really hard to feed my hair through the machine. So I used this tissue paper like you would with a really thin fabric to get a more even feed into the machine. And there are 4 straighter stitches. So since I'm fairly new to stitching with a sewing machine, I decided to start off slow, and then you'll see I'll slowly ramp up as I get kind of warmed up with my sewing machine, making sure that I am halfway between my 2 pieces of tape and I've got a straight stitch. Once I go to the end of the row, I'm gonna flip it around and make another pass the other way. And while I do this, I, clear the hair out of the way and make sure it doesn't get tangled up in the machine. You wanna make sure your thread tails stay clear of your machine as well. And as I make my second pass here, I'm gonna go straight over the same stitches I just made and be careful not to waver too much. Other videos would call this one pass, where you go one direction and then the other. But since I was fairly conservative with the hair that I laid down across the tape, in the sense that my layer was very thin, I felt that doing any more than this wasn't necessary, as there wasn't a lot of shedding after 2 passes here. And there we have our row, and now I'm gonna cut it, and that's what it looks like up close. Okay, so now I'm gonna remove the tissue paper, and here comes the fun part with the straightening iron and folding it using our cardstock. So you place the cardstock between your 2 layers of hair after a fold. You kind of keep it tight on that card, and then you use your straightening iron to heat up your fibers, and then you kind of pinch them to get a really good crease there so that it can feed easily into your sewing machine. The flatter you get it, the easier the sewing machine will be able to do our top stitch. So once that's good and flat, we're going to take some more tissue paper. I fold this one in half because I felt like now that my fabric is a little thicker this time, it was easier to feed it into my machine by folding the tissue paper in half. The top stitch should line up with your original stitch. You're just going straight over the top again, and that's pretty much it. And we're done. So now I'm going to remove the tissue paper and the tape, and we'll have our weft. You can seal the ends of your weft using like clear nail polish or nail glue or some kind of clear adhesive, just dabbing it on the ends, and that will help with shedding later if you want to seal these wefts. Now I'm going to be doing my passes between my 2 pieces of tape. I did that all at once before folding the hair and doing top stitches. As I mentioned before, I kind of do it like an assembly line where I did each section before moving on to the next section. And that's all there is to it. Once you've cleaned up all your tape and tissue paper from your wefts, it's time to sew them to a wig cap to form the full body of the wig. That will be in part 3 of this video series, so tune in next time and I'll actually make this all come together and make a wig. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you like this video, want to see more like it. I've also got a Patreon, which will all be listed in my description below this video, so go ahead and take a look if you haven't already. Once again, this is Star Rose Wigs. We look forward to working with you. Thanks for watching.